जाते ना यार, इसमें मेरी फोटो नहीं आ रही।
Good evening, everyone. We will be commencing with the session shortly. One of you are requested to kindly just exit for a while because our guest couldn't be able to join in. So, one or two people, can you please exit for as of now so that our guest can join? Thanks a lot. There's a YouTube live also going on, guys. You can join over there too.
Um, Members of Debate and Discussion Society, can we please ask some of you to leave the meet so that the chief guest can join, the speaker can join, please?
Please, students, please don't raise your hands early. Just have some patience. We are trying to get the guest to join. Yes, Amisha?
Sudhanshu, has the guest joined?
Ma'am, there has been an issue. The guest isn't able to join yet because of the strength. So, people, please exit for a while so that the guest can join and then later you can. Also, there's a YouTube video going on live right now, so you can join over there too. Guys, you are please requested to do that. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Simran, we are waiting.
Okay, ma'am.
Just try to remove some students. They can join from the YouTube link. And then they can send you questions which we can take in the question and answer round.
Sure. Sure, ma'am.
मैम वेट मैं करवा रहा हूँ ज्वाइन गेस्ट से ये थोड़ा सा इशू हो गया है ज्वाइनिंग वाला तो इसलिए नहीं हो पा रही थी
Hello, we are waiting. The professor in charge is also waiting.
ओके मैम ओके सॉरी मैम सॉरी फॉर दिस कन्वीनियंस मैम ज्वाइन हो गई है मैम
चलो ठीक है ओके देन उनको करो इंट्रोड्यूस सिमरन
चारू सॉरी मैम फॉर दिस good evening everyone thank you to each and every one of you being here with us today myself Sudhanshu Srivastava and it's my privilege and great pleasure on behalf of LC2 Debate Society Delhi University to welcome you here today we are delighted to have you with us to participate in this discussion on provision of child marriage amendment bill we are honored to have Mahavir sir our professor in charge Charu Pragya ma'am our guest and Vageswari ma'am with us today now I would like to call Simran for further navigation of today's discussion. Please, Simran, continue. Simran, can you hear me?
Yeah, just a second. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, good evening, everybody. We both, Anukriti and Simran, are here before you all to present this wonderful session today. I would like Anukriti to welcome you all first. Anukriti, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. We are delighted to warmly welcome you all to this chilling evening. Everybody in Delhi must be feeling the chill a lot. Today, I, Anukriti, and Simran would, from Debate and Discussion Society, welcome you all to today's discussion on Prohibition of Child Marriage Amendment Bill 2021. Simran, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. So the society today is felicitous to have three panelists today on board. Our guest speaker, Ms. Charu Pragya, an eminent lawyer holding the position of Vice Chairman, National Anti-Doping Agency, and media panelist, along with our illustrious professor in charge, Dr. Mahavir Singh Kalon, and associate teacher in charge, Professor Dr. Vageshwari ma'am. To begin off with today's session, I would request our Reverend Professor in charge, an embarking renowned name in the arena of the constitutional law and jurisprudence with a plethora of publications to his name, Professor Dr. Mahavir Singh Kalon, to address the virtual gathering. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Simran. I'm today totally delighted at this good occasion. So, our respected, esteemed, and worthy colleagues, dear students, very, very Good evening to everyone. As all of you know, that at present, the Indian laws have fixed the age of marriage at 18 and 21 for girls and boys, respectively. The 10-member task force of the Niti Aayog was set up on June 4th, 2020, under Jaya Jetli, former Samta Party president. According to a government release, its terms of reference were to examine the correlation of age of marriage and motherhood with key parameters such as maternal and infant health, maternal mortality rate ratio, infant mortality ratio, total fertility rate, sex ratio at birth, and child sex ratio. The task force was also asked to suggest measures to promote higher education among women and to suggest legislative instruments in existing laws to support its recommendations. In interviews to the media, Jaya Jetli stated that one of the recommendations had been to raise the age of marriage for women from 18 to 21. On December 16, 2021, based on the recommendations of the Niti Aayog task force, the union government approved a proposal to raise the legal age of marriage for women from 18 to 21. On December 20th, the Prohibition of Child Marriage Amendment Bill 2021 was introduced in the Lok Sabha. The bill argues that the highly pernicious practice of child marriage continues despite of the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. So there is an urgent need to tackle this societal issue and bring in reforms. Besides, it says that all the personal religious laws relating to the age of marriage do not suggest a uniform age of marriage for men and women, and that women were put at a disadvantageous position with regard to education, vocational education, attainment of psychological security, and skill sets. The amendment bill has been referred to a standing committee for further discussion and scrutiny. Ironically, this is only one woman among member in the 31st member parliamentary standing committee. Today debates and discussion Society of Law Center 2 has organized this discussion on this very pertinent issue as a part of our center's Golden Jubilee celebration. We have with us Miss Charu Prigya. We welcome you, ma'am. Miss Charu Prigya is a lawyer, politician who heads the national legal cell of the BJP Youth Wing. She is also national TV panelist for BJP, and she speaks on issues relating to governance, policy, local civic issues, education, and social rule programs. A passionate social reformer, Ms. Prigya is a crusader for women's rights and runs free legal aid centers for women across India. Her work has helped build a network of lawyers who provide free of cost legal assistance to those in need. With her roots in rural Uttar Pradesh and her feet in urban New Delhi, she works to bridge the social justice gap between rural and urban India. She also organizes training workshops and legal awareness camps for women and youth across the country. She has an interest in environment, sustainable development, education, and agriculture technology, and is engaged with various social entrepreneurship initiatives, especially for women. She holds Bachelor of Legal Science, cum LLB degree from Government Law College, University of Bombay. Charu is a fellow of Conrad and Dior Stiftung School for Young Politicians, alumni of Australia India Youth Dialogue, and has completed the Oxford Innovation Leadership in Public Policy course. She represented India at the Madrid Forum on Democracy, where 35 nations were represented, and has presented a lecture at the Election Bridge Conference in Myanmar. She is on the governing body of Ramanujan College, University of Delhi, a panel member of Central Board of Film Certification, and has won medals at both the international and national level in pistol shooting. We welcome you, Miss Charu, to initiate this discussion.
How the bill came into being, and for such a warm welcome to our guest, and for your word of encouragement. Moving forward, Simran, I'm sure by now you know what the bill is about, at least by the brief background that we got. What do you think about the bill? What are your views?
Actually, it's such a delightful thing to have this on board, with also its pros and cons. Absolutely, it's a wonderful thing to have discussed upon right now. But according to me, one of my view which came into my mind was that, what about the age factor, which has been turned to 21? Of course, absolutely everyone would be knowing about that. But what are everyone's views upon that? For that, we are here today, enlightened by Ms. Charu Pragya ma'am, to have she on board today with us. Of course, while the age makes sense, but what all factors are there to be entailed upon? Let's have that look by Ms. Charu Pragya ma'am, a guest of honor. Ma'am, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Anukriti, Simran. A big thank you to Sudhanshu for inviting me. And Mahavir sir का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मेरा इतना लंबा सा introduction देने के लिए. Thank you so much, sir. Bhageshri ma'am, thank you so much for having me and for organizing this. So I decided, because this is the debate and discussion society, and that too of law students, let's not keep it unidirectional. Let's keep this very interactive. मैं थोड़ी सी देर बोलूंगी, उसके बाद let's have a discussion, open it up for question and answers. Is that okay, Simran?
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely.
And also, because we are all lawyers or to be lawyers, let's also discuss both the aspects of this bill. Let's discuss what is good about the age for women to be married being raised, but let's also discuss the complications it might pose in other areas. So over here today, मैं पहले ही बोल देती हूँ, disclaimer, I am not here as a BJP spokesperson. I am here purely as a lawyer, and that's why I'm going to say both sides of my opinions of this bill. ठीक है? कोई बाद में मेरे को जाके इंटरनेट पे ट्रोल करके ये मत बोलना भाजपा प्रवक्ता लॉ के खिलाफ भी बोल के गई है. So We all know the history of how the marriage age has been rising in our country. तो 1900s में महिलाओं की शादी करने की उम्र सिर्फ 10 साल होती थी. A 10-year-old child who's not even started her period could be married off. Slowly the age started getting more and more older, from 12 to 14 to 16, and finally in 1978 this age was frozen to be 18 years for girls and 21 years for boys. अच्छा, ये 18 and 20 का मैं आपको बताती हूँ थोड़ा सा फर्क तब भी क्यों रखा गया था, क्योंकि हमारी संस्कृति में, हमारे शास्त्रों में ये माना जाता है a woman matures faster than a man. And most of our scriptures will prove this. Science also proves this. So physical as well as mental development of women happens a little faster than that of men. And keeping that in mind, 18 and 21 was fixed. And for the largest time, in fact, all the way till December 2021, this was the legally marriageable age in our country. I understand that when we talk about gender equality, it is much more sensible to have one single age for marriage for both men and women. भाई एक एज होती है आपकी ड्राइवर लाइसेंस लेने की, एक ही एज होती है आपकी वोट डालने की. For other things also, when are you considered a criminal? It's the same age, whether you're a boy or a girl. When can you legally start drinking? You shouldn't drink. I'm not propagating that, but I'm saying the law gives you one single age for everything, except till now for marriage. Marriage के लिए वो लड़की और लड़कों की दो अलग-अलग उम्र रखी गई थी. लेकिन आपको पता है, in spite of this law being in place from 1978, मैं आपको पिछले साल का डेटा बताती हूँ. पिछले साल मतलब 2020 का डेटा बताती हूँ. 1/4 बताती हूँ. Sorry, that was my voice echoing. 1/4 of the marriages which happened in India, close to 24% were underage. So isn't that horrific? कहने के लिए हमारे पास एक law है, लेकिन फिर भी 1/4 marriages, 24% of marriages of girls were underage. And not just this, more than 7% of pregnancies were found to be between the ages of 15 and 18. So, of course, marriageable age आपने कागज पर कुछ भी रखी थी, उसको आपको enforce करना बहुत आसान नहीं हो रहा था. And with that also comes the issue of child pregnancies, underage pregnancies. And underage pregnancies के बहुत सारे health issues होते हैं, which a medical person can tell you better. But see, there are issues with miscarriages. There are issues with the girl's health being spoiled forever. Anemia coming in, and anemia staying for life, cervical cancer, other sexually transmitted diseases, the chances of the child being born the chances of the child being born with a lot of other health issues. So उसके बहुत सारे issues होते हैं जो एक child marriage से related होते हैं. लेकिन ये मैं 18 साल से नीचे के लड़कियों की बात कर रही हूँ. Above 18, you're considered an adult in India. Above 18, you're considered enough of an adult to go cast your vote. Also, यहाँ पर ना मैं एक थोड़ा unconventional सी बात बोलना चाहती हूँ. When it comes to rape, right? हमारे देश में consent की age को भी 18 माना जाता है. So if there is a complaint of a parent of a girl who is under the age of 18, that is going to be considered rape, because an under 18 girl is not even allowed to give consent. So what does this mean? कि आप 18 साल के बाद consent दे सकते हो, लेकिन शादी 21 पे कर सकते हो? Is this what the law means? Or it basically means कि consent की age भी 18 से 21 पर आ गई है. Now this I think is some sort of a grey area which lawyers need to ponder on. Maybe आगे चल के जब आप cases argue करेंगे, I know lawyers are not supposed to see everything in black and white. हमको अपनी दुनिया ग्रे में देखनी पड़ती है, क्योंकि बहुत सारी बार आप cases जब argue करते हैं, everything is not black and white, and you will have to interpret law in your own way. So this is one question which came to my mind. What happens to the age of consent? And maybe when we open up for discussions, we can discuss about this as well. And that has been bothering me. Also, if it is only about equality, if it is only about raising the bar of gender neutrality when it comes to marriage law, why was the discussion not made to bring down the marriageable age of men? क्योंकि ये भी तो होता है ना कि if a girl falls in love or there is an arranged match and the family wants to get her married or she wants to get married, even the boy can reach that stage earlier than he turns 21. So I'll tell you why Niti Aayog has chosen this age of 21. It's because our data has shown that the median age of marriage in India, the average age of marriage in India is 22 years and 2 months. So this was the reason why 21 साल पर हम लोग finally आकर टिके हैं. तो जब most of the marriages are happening at the age of 22 plus, the government felt it safe to bring about a law which fixes this at 21 years. Also, in the last 5 years, as the marriageable average age has risen, we have also seen the number of girls getting enrolled for higher education has also risen. So जब हम education for all propagate करते हैं, जब हम ये बोलते हैं all our girls deserve an equal opportunity, जब हम ये बोलते हैं कि हमारी लड़कियां क्यों नहीं पढ़ लिख के अपने पैरों पे खड़े हों और अपने सारे सपने चेज करें, why can they not become professionals, why can they not have their perfect jobs and good lives, why can they not aspire for more? The fact is, all this will happen only when they get to finish their education, at least their graduation, if not more. So raising the marriageable age of girls is actually going to ensure and help with that. And धीरे धीरे बदलाव आता है. देखो ऐसा तो कभी भी नहीं होता ना कि आज एक law pass हो गया और रातों रात दुनिया बदल गई. So eventually once it becomes known, and आजकल आपको पता है awareness कितनी ज्यादा है. Even young girls in schools also know the marriageable age has risen. They have access to media, they have access to social media. So the girls also become more conscious of their rights. जब उन्हें अपने rights पता होंगे, वो अपने rights के लिए fight भी करेंगी, अपने rights के लिए खड़ी भी रहेंगी. आज, in the last 4 years, we have seen an 18% increase of admission of girls in higher education, and that is tremendous for India. In a country जहाँ पर gender disparity इतनी ज़्यादा हुआ करती थी थोड़े समय पहले तक कि हमारा sex ratio भी skewed था. It's a big achievement for our country, for our government to actually see a rise of 18% in the admission of girls in higher education courses. So also we are pushing our sustainable goal number 5 of ensuring there is gender neutrality, gender equality, and women get empowered every step of the way. So मैंने अपनी तरफ से आपको थोड़े से cons भी बताए हैं, थोड़े से pros भी बताए हैं. I am not going to stick to only one direction here because I believe a good lawyer should have an open mind. A good lawyer should also be able to understand and question things from both sides of the spectrum. अच्छा हाँ, यहाँ पर मैं एक चीज और बोलना चाहती हूँ. Now with marriageable age in India fixed to 21 years, you should know that we are a country with the highest marriageable age in the world now. One of the highest. क्योंकि बाकी सारे countries आप ये मान के चलिए 90% of the countries marriageable age is somewhere between 18 to 20. All of them, and only 3 main countries I found जिसकी marriageable age हमसे थोड़ी सी ज्यादा या equal है, that is Egypt, China and Japan. Even Japan is actually 20 years, so एक हमसे 1 साल कम ही है. That's another question that we can ponder over, food for thought. Increasing the marriageable age for girls today also makes me wonder what is happening in certain other states in our country. So centrally हमने एक law बना दिया which says marriageable age is 21 years, and at the same time, nearly at the same time, just a few months before, Rajasthan government has passed a bill which says that अब child marriage वहाँ के courts में register हो पाएंगी. So I don't understand this contradiction. On one side you're claiming to be fighting child marriage, at the same side you're saying no, we're against child marriage, but it's okay if you're already married, you can register your marriage. So I took a lot of personal offense to that particular law. There was a huge hue and cry about it, which made me wonder, as a society, as a country, हम लोगों को एक mindset change की जरूरत ज्यादा है rather than a legal change in our system. And that mindset change is going to come around by 2 things. Of course, our parents have to be educated. Education for girls has to be looked after. And you know, education for girls has taken a big hit in the pandemic. Child marriages have also risen much more than the 1/4 that I told you at the beginning of this lecture. It has risen to be much more than that. आप देखिए इस साल अगले साल जब भी सर्वे होगा हमें नया फिगर पता चलेगा. बट पैंडेमिक के 2 साल में चाइल्ड मैरिजेस बढ़ी गई हैं, घटी तो कहीं पर भी नहीं है. So what is more important is to bring about a societal change, a mindset change जो लड़कियों को ही ड्राइव करना पड़ेगा, लड़कियों को ही स्टैंड लेना पड़ेगा. And this will happen with better education. This will happen with a better support system from the family. This will happen when mothers start siding with their daughters or fathers start siding with their daughters and they say कि नहीं अभी मेरी बच्ची छोटी है, वो ग्रेजुएशन पूरा करेगी, अपना प्रोफेशनल कोर्स पूरा करेगी, अपनी स्किलिंग पूरा करेगी और हम उसी के बाद उसकी शादी करेंगे. the question of the uniform code also comes through, क्योंकि हम आज बोलते हैं 21 साल है, लेकिन एक मुस्लिम बच्ची की शादी तो उससे जल्दी हो सकती है. मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ technically, actually, Government of India doesn't allow it, but Muslim personal law will allow it. So what is the step forward to make sure every single girl born in any religion, any culture gets an advantage of this particular law? इसके ऊपर भी हमको जमीन पे बहुत ज्यादा काम करना पड़ेगा. And I'm going to wrap up by saying this. You know, this is an issue which I heard from some young girls. They say, अरे हमें पहले शादी करनी होती थी. We only had to wait till we are 18 to go and tell our parents that हम अपनी मर्जी से शादी करना चाहते हैं. अब हमें 21 साल तक इंतजार करना पड़ेगा. तब तक तो पेरेंट्स हमारे और एक्टिवेट हो जाएंगे. पता नहीं हमारी बात मानी जाएगी या नहीं मानी जाएगी. So the whole issue of a lot of girls being married against their will, a lot of girls being forced into marriages before they are being married also. I'm ending my talk here with a lot of questions. Very few answers, I know, but I'm here to now give answers to the questions that you're raising. अच्छा, इस पूरे lecture में मैंने अपना personal opinion कहीं पर भी नहीं दिया है. That's my second disclaimer. So thank you so much, and over to you again, Simran.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. This was a very wonderful and enlightening session. Of course, we'll be having Q&A session after this. Anukriti, go ahead.
I think Vageshri ma'am will be giving the vote of thanks before, and then we'll open the floor for discussion. So thank you, ma'am. You beautifully explained us what is the bill about, gave us a very balanced view about the pros, the cons, and left us with a lot of questions, honestly. A lot to ponder upon, think upon, and ask you a lot of questions. So before we move forward to the discussion, I will request Professor Dr. Vageshri Deswal to actually extend the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Anukriti. This is my responsibility as the teacher convener of Debates and Discussions Club to extend my vote of thanks to Charuji. But before that, some concluding remarks on my part. First thing is that I am absolutely delighted to hear Charuji's views. I mean, we couldn't have chosen a better person to initiate discussion on this topic. She has given a very, very balanced view of what this law is about and the pros and cons. Some of my comments on this. Now, two things I will be first talking about would be regarding what Charuji has stated. One is regarding what she said was the general view when we fixed the age at 18 for girls and 21 for boys, because it was a general perception that because girls, they attain a physical maturity earlier and psychologically also. It's not only about puberty. It's also, it is considered usually that women, they get wiser earlier than men. So maybe that was the reason that we put women's age at 18 and boys' age at 21. Now the feminist in me just can't help but contradict the same, because what I feel is that, see, patriarchy has always had a hegemonic grip over all our institutions, and marriage, the social institution of marriage is no different. See, when we fixed the age of marriage at 18 for girls, the rationale was that, see, in our country, usually we complete our schooling by the age we attain 18. So, and after that, it takes another 3 years to complete our graduation. So, technically speaking, once a person is graduate, so a person is fit for job. So, normally a person is graduate by the age of 21 years. So, when a boy is fit for job at 21 years, that is the same age when we say that, see, you are fit for marriage, because what patriarchy says is that it is the man's responsibility to be the breadwinner, to earn, to support the family, irrespective of where his interests may lie. So at 21, we fix the marriage age for boys, and at 18, the girl is not fit for job. So what is she fit for? Reproduction? Is that her primary responsibility? Because that seems to have weighed with our lawmakers at that time. Because at 18, what else are you expecting? Because that is what patriarchy also says, that women, they are supposed to be homemakers and men, they are supposed to be breadwinners. So that was the first point. Second was regarding this compulsory registration. See, when I also read about this, that child marriages, on one hand, we say that child marriages are illegal. On the other hand, we are saying that all child marriages, they need to be compulsorily registered. So when I read about this in the newspapers, I was also mighty offended. But then, see, there was a reason behind this still, and the reason was that what would happen otherwise? The status of marriage is illegal. Although we say that it is a valid marriage, the children born out of child marriages are legitimate children. The woman, she can claim right of residence, she can claim maintenance also from her husband. But in case the marriage is not registered, who will testify before the courts that the marriage had in fact taken place? Nobody will accept that the marriage had taken place. The girl, she will be running from pillar to post, trying to fight for her rights, trying to get some of the claims, some of the entitlements that she is entitled to, whereas the boys' party will say that no. Even the girl's parents would be reluctant to say that they had married their daughter, because if they say so, they will be subjected to punishments that are given under the law. So what I feel is that, see, all births, all marriages, all deaths, they need to be absolutely registered. Till the time we don't declare such marriages as void marriages, then maybe there is some logic when we talk about registration of these marriages. Then, just 5 minutes more I'll be taking. So now my own submissions regarding this bill, because I want a very healthy discussion on this from both the sides. See, there is a 1962 UN Convention on consent to marriage, minimum age for marriage and registration of marriages. That is a treaty that was drafted by the UN basically, and which signifies a minimum age for marriage by statute law, and such an age would override all customary, religious and tribal laws and traditions, and that would ensure the compulsory registration of marriages. Now, India is not a signatory to the above-mentioned treaty, but we have signed CEDAW, which is Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Now, CEDAW also talks about elimination of child marriage and also talks about uniformity in marriageable age for men and women alike. So, the bill that we have introduced in the Parliament now, that is in conformity with the international obligation, because what we need is a uniform age for marriage. Now, the bill talks about increasing the marriageable age of girls to 21. No doubt, the objective is laudable, because, and eventually that should be our goal. Minimum age for marriage, 21. See, because that is what educated, progressive people are following also nowadays, as Charuji told us about the statistics also. In India, the common age for marriage now is 22 or 22 and a half. See, boys and girls who are working or independent, they are living life on their own terms. They are having relationships. They are testing waters by staying in live-ins, so they do not marry early. But now, what about majority of our people who stay in villages? See, there are lots of people who blindly follow customary practices, who are reluctant to accept girls as equal to boys, who look upon their daughters as a liability to be gotten rid of as early as possible. They try to kill her in the mother's womb. Female feticide से बच गई तो infanticide की शिकार हो जाएगी. Infanticide से बच गई तो उसकी जल्दी शादी कर दी जाएगी. And another point, see, economic prosperity is not a measure for social development. See, when we look at the villages within our capital, Delhi, or the neighboring Gurgaon, see, you have dominant communities of Jats, Gujars, Thakurs, Yadavs. See, they are all rich landowners, rich communities. But so many of these people living in these villages, they marry off their daughters as young as 15 or 16. And they spend crores of rupees. See, there is a colossal wastage on wedding feasts and dowry. But they do not spend on educating or empowering their girl children. See, they cite concerns as to the girl's safety. They cite social norms and cultural practices as to the reasons why they are marrying off their daughters early. But the root cause is patriarchy. wherein sexuality, reproductive choices, her social interactions, who she meets, how she dresses, her access to education, healthcare, nutrition, all this is controlled and dictated by the patriarch. She is considered as their property, one who needs to be under the control of her father, then her brother, then her husband, and then sons. People who cannot wait till 18 to marry off their girls, how will they wait till 21? This amendment that has been proposed, see, and I am all for this amendment, but the problem is this amendment doesn't state any changes in the implementational mechanism. So a law that has failed to enforce 18 as minimum age, how will it succeed when we further increase the age? So you see, I have certain reservations because child marriage is more of a social issue in our country, over which legislation will hardly have any impact till the time we do not usher in appropriate social reforms. See, there are mainly two issues that the bill seeks to tackle. One is bring about uniformity in age of marriage across all religions. See, this amendment has an overriding provision that will prevail over all conflicting provisions in various personal laws, and the age shall be the one which is prescribed in this bill, irrespective of what the religion says. I personally feel this is a long pending amendment that should be enforced strictly. There are people who are saying that BJP is trying to push its agenda of uniform civil code through this in a very clandestine manner or whatever. All said and done. But there has to be one single uniform civil law for everyone in this country. So that is something which I strongly believe in and I strongly support. All secular laws, they should have an absolute overriding effect on the personal laws. And the second objective is stop child marriages, because child marriages, they are continuing despite the law. So when we ponder over the second objective, that is stop child marriages, even if the bill is passed, the status of marriage will remain the same as an old law. It will be valid until one of the parties gets it annulled. Every child conceived of such marriage shall also be deemed to be a legitimate child for all purposes. So the marriage is not void. It is only voidable, and only the child bride or the groom can file a petition to annul their marriage in their personal capacity. So if the petitioner is statutorily a minor, the petition can be filed only through a guardian or the next best friend of the married child with the help from the child marriage prohibition officer. In theory, this form of access to justice seems ideal, but in practice, it's easier said than done. See, the primary reason is that children are not always placed in a position to approach their first point of contact, which is the child marriage prohibition officer. Many children, they face resistance and physical restraint from their own families, and there are also threats of retribution for reporting the offense from their spouses and in-laws. Even where children are married against their wishes, girls may not report. Why? Because there is this fear of social backlash. There is this fear of stigma, mental distress of putting their family members behind bars. Another challenge is convincing the guardian of the children to annul the marriage. Guardians also are conditioned by societal norms and prejudices that surround the issue of child marriage. And more often than not, it is the guardians who push the children into forced marriages at a tender age. So it is, even if the women, they try to approach the cause, it would be a struggle for women and children from such marriages to claim their entitlements. Then, if it's an illegal marriage, there is obviously a stigma on such children, there will be custody issues, there will be complex issues arising out of reclaiming the dowry, the bride price. So if we have this kind of a law, this has more of a tendency to drive the practice underground instead of curbing this practice. See, laws that conflict with social norms usually do not succeed. We have the example of Dowry Prohibition Act. We got the law in 1961. Dowry still continues to plague our society. So there have been legislative changes, but which, whenever they conflict with social traditions, the framework around the implementation of such laws are as vital as the proposed change. And then another point that we have to consider is, as Charuji also said, in our country where age of majority is 18, we can vote at 18, get a driving license, purchase property, enter into contracts, open a bank account, all this we can do at 18, and age of consent is also 18. So now what about the consensual relations among children between 18 to 21 years of age? See, in our country, where premarital, extramarital sex is a taboo. What about youngsters in that age, when it is more about experimenting rather than exploitation? Are we going to criminalize all of them? Putting an absolute bar till 21 will give rise to more cases of elopement, more involvement of cops and courts in personal matters. Love marriages will be criminalized. It will further increase patriarchal violence against women who marry between the ages of 18 and 21. When we frown upon intercaste marriages, interreligious marriages, and in general love marriages also, we despise them, and they result in social boycott and even honor killings. Parents and community members may use such kind of laws against rebellious children. So I think it would be a better idea to decrease the age of marriage of boys to 18 and make it uniform for everyone instead of keeping unrealistic and socially unachievable goal of increasing it for girls to 21. See, even otherwise, increasing the age of marriage does not automatically translate to women acquiring more higher education or joining the labor force in huge numbers. We need to tackle the root cause of gender inequality. We should empower our girls, invest in them, educate them, give them property rights, make them financially independent, mobilize our families and communities, initiate awareness campaigns against child marriages, and also provide a social support to girls who are at risk of early marriage or those who get married early. So as per me, there cannot be a single solution. What we need is a localized and a contextualized approach to this problem. So that will be my 2 cents on this issue. Thank you. Now the floor is open to questions.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a great insight that you gave and opened the floor to a great discussion also. Now, this is to all the attendees. The floor is open for discussion. You can either put your questions in the chat box, and people who are joining us through YouTube can put it in the comment box there, and the questions will be taken accordingly. Very similar to what Vagyashree ma'am was talking, one of our attendees named Devanshi Vats has sent in her question, which asks that isn't it contradictory that at 18 women are allowed to vote but not marry? Doesn't it contradict many of our personal laws and also the personal laws of other communities in India? I think, ma'am, that would be our starting question, and after that we'll keep on sending you the questions that is coming to us.
Anukriti, would you like me to take that question?
I think, ma'am, yes, you can take, because I think Vagyashree ma'am has already given her opinion on this point. So we'd like to hear you.
Yeah, so, I'm going to go back to some data that I had quoted when I was speaking. Right now, India has literally become the country with the highest marriageable age in the world. And I think we should be focusing more on raising our children in the right way, teaching them to take the right decisions instead of putting legal sanctions for them to take certain actions. And that should be the focus. But that being said, when our government takes a call, we have to understand that the narrative is not strictly for people like you and me who have access to the internet, who have laptops and smartphones, and who are in this discussion today, who have the privilege of a good education and a supportive family. This narrative is also for people people from rural India, जहां पर early marriage की वजह से domestic violence बढ़ जाता है, and you know domestic violence is largely gender based violence, even though there's a lot of discussion saying that even women can misbehave, but the fact is, as lawyers, we also understand that most of the violence in a marriage becomes gender based. So keeping all of that in mind, also keeping in mind the study that Niti Aayog did, the government had its reasons for increasing the age to 21. Also, we are a developing country. We're also a country where education to a girl, equal rights to a girl are not given traditionally. It is ट्रेडिशनली तो नहीं बोलना चाहिए, मे बी एंशिएंट इंडिया में ये इशू नहीं था, लेकिन आफ्टर द लास्ट couple of 100 years of Indian history, when we take account of it, I think we have to start from scratch when it comes to giving women a similar platform that we give our men. At least this is going to push families to allow their girls, and मैं गांव की लड़कियों की बात कर रही हूँ, मैं tier 3 tier 4 की लड़कियों की बात कर रही हूँ, it will give them an opportunity to at least finish their education. But the debate still remains कि अगर बाकी चीजों में consent और बाकी चीजों में adulthood 18 पे attain होता है, is the government going to give a clarification on this issue? Maybe there are going to be certain explanations which the Supreme Court will come into and give an interpretation, and that will help us more.
I guess that gave a very well explanation to Devanshi's question, ma'am. Thanks a lot. The another question which we have on the dais today is by Shipul Bansal. The question is, can someone ask today that marrying age is different for everyone, right? People don't marry until they are mentally ready.
Yes.
So what does she think about a woman perspective, from a woman's perspective, that the society and even the family members, the men especially, and women, if they want to get married after 30, like what would be that perspective about this bill? So kindly, ma'am.
See, you know, this bill is actually one step towards that freedom of deciding for yourself, because the more one of the reasons why women remain trapped in bad marriages where they're not given sufficient respect, marriages where they are treated badly. There is a lot of domestic violence, and domestic violence, आपको पता है, केवल physical नहीं होता, वो emotional भी होता है, वो mental भी होता है, वो financial भी होता है. इन सब चीजों में trapped रहने का एक बहुत बड़ा reason financial independence ना होना भी है. So when a woman is not financially independent, when she's not educated sufficiently, जब उसको ये लगता है कि मैं इस घर से बाहर चली जाऊंगी और मेरे parents मुझे वापस नहीं लेंगे, how will I support myself? This question becomes the crux on which she bases a lot of her decisions in life. But if she is educated, as ma'am was saying that 21 साल तक आपका कम से कम graduation तो हो जाएगा, तो एक basic employability आपके पास आ जाती है, या अगर आपने कोई vocational course करा है तो आपके पास एक basic skill तो आ जाती है. This is one step towards that autonomy that women and men need to have in their own lives. And this entire older mindset which used to be there, जब बोला जाता था ना कि settle हो जाओ, लड़कों को भी बोला जाता है, this is not just a girl thing, लड़कों को भी यही बात बोली जाती है, अब सेटल हो जाओ. और सेटल हो जाओ only basically means आप शादी कर लो. शादी कर भी लेते हो तो भी पेरेंट्स बोलते हैं अब आप बच्चा कर लो, अब एक हो गया अब आप दूसरा बच्चा कर लो. So you know, this entire system which continues should have more freedom to it. Marriage is a beautiful thing. A person should enter into it when they are mentally ready, when they physically feel ready, also when they financially feel ready.
I think, ma'am, that very well answers. There's a follow-up to this very question that, you know, society and especially the side, male side of the families think that women misuse Section 498A of IPC.
Yeah.
So in those, so that creates sort of a barrier where people who really need justice are not able to reach, and people are of the assumed identity that, oh, they're just, you know, it's a fake case. So, you know, how does that get catered?
So, you know, Anukriti, this question is very close to my heart because I get trolled a lot for speaking on this particular issue. Men especially think that 498A को तो हटा ही देना चाहिए, उसको criminalize होना ही नहीं चाहिए. लेकिन the fact is this law came around, only the existing practice of dowry is there in our world. We might turn a blind eye towards it. हम उसको gifts बोले, हम शादी अच्छे से करना बोले, हम उसको किसी भी guise में छुपाएं. The fact is that dowry exists, and a lot of women suffer because of it. And there is a very sketchy data on this. You know, girls who are in good marriages, even though they have given dowry, they will not speak out about it. Girls, when they are troubled, they will maybe use it like a weapon. I understand that. I have my sympathies with those men who have been trapped into a fake case. I completely understand that. But keeping that in mind, we should ensure कि जो लड़कियां सच में सफर कर रही हैं, आपने वो केसेस पढ़े हैं ना, जला दिया बच्ची को, मम्मी पापा को एक्सटॉर्ट कर रहे हैं लिटरली फॉर मनी, डिवोर्स की धमकी दी जा रही है, द गर्ल इज बीइंग ट्रीटेड बैडली, एंड ओनली बिकॉज द स्टिग्मा ऑफ बीइंग किक्ड आउट ऑफ हर मैरिटल होम और गेटिंग divorced is so big, the girl decides to keep quiet. That does not do away with the evils of dowry that still exist in our system. So मैं बल्कि ये बोलूंगी 498A को हटाने से better ये है that if a girl is found to be lying, there should be stringent punishment for that rather than doing away with the dowry law. Also, you know, all of this is interconnected. Usually क्या होता है ना, जब कोई matrimonial case होता है, 498A होता है, domestic violence होता है, right to maintenance और right to residence, ये तीन चार applications एक साथ फाइल कर दी जाती है. Like this is how the legal system works, right? But you have to remember that domestic violence is as much a reality as dowry is. And those men who are sitting on a high horse and they say मैं तो भला हूँ, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है दुनिया में सभी लोग भले हैं. And those men who have been mistreated by one woman who has not been morally correct does not mean all those hundreds and thousands who are suffering don't deserve a law to take care of them. So I'm completely against the law currently being wiped out.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. I guess that's a complete hybrid of a legal and morality part gathered into a one perspective answer. The another question which I would raise upon is that we know that societal changes are slow, adamant, and it takes time. So do you think that law like this will act as a precedent, or we should have worked in bringing social reforms that would have been better?
Simran, you know, social reforms are more important than legal reforms currently in our system. क्योंकि आप देखो, I'll give you a very small example. Around 7-8 years back, we were discussing the sex ratio in India, especially in the state of Haryana. And there were much lesser girls than boys in the state of Haryana. We started a social campaign, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. We started a social campaign, Selfie with Daughter. And the result of that social campaign today has changed the sex ratio in our country, and that was nothing to do with changing a law. So today it's more important for us to work with society on ground, to work on the thought processes of both our elders and our upcoming generation. क्योंकि जो societal change होता है ना, वो law से एक झटके से एक magic wand हिलाने से नहीं होता. And like I said, even as early as last year, and I am talking of data till 2020 only, 1/4 marriages were child marriages. 1/4 marriages were for girls who were under the age of 18 years. And then data also says that 2020 के बाद child marriages तो बढ़ी है. So I think that first we should make sure that our system on ground, which basically means, see, I'll tell you how it happens. And when I work at the grassroots level, I have learned this. जिस area का DM अच्छा होगा, डिस्ट्रिक्ट मैजिस्ट्रेट, कलेक्टर अच्छा होगा, जिस एरिया में जो पुलिस का चीफ है वो बहुत एक्टिव होगा, जिस एरिया में सोशल कॉन्शियसनेस बहुत होगी, उस एरिया में दीज काइंड ऑफ लॉज का एप्लीकेशन इज गोइंग टू बी मच बेटर. सो एप्लीकेशन ऑफ लॉ ऑन ग्राउंड इज समथिंग दैट वी नीड टू फोकस मच मोर ऑन. आई थिंक इट्स मच easier to make a law in parliament. It's very easy for the Supreme Court to sign off a case and for us to say ये अब हमारा नया benchmark हो गया है. But for us to make that work at the grassroots level, जैसे ट्रिपल तलाक का एग्जाम्पल है, लॉ आ गया which was much needed. डाउरी का भी लॉ आ गया, it was much needed. अब चाइल्ड मैरिज मतलब मैरिजेबल एज को भी हमने रेज कर दिया लीगली. Of course it was needed, but till we don't make it applicable at the grassroots level, I think it's going to remain a paper law. पनिशमेंट उसमें बहुत छोटी सी है. अभी तक कितनी पनिशमेंट थी? 18 से 21 साल तक का अगर लड़का है, उसमें जो पनिशमेंट है कितना, 15 दिन 20 दिन का है. यू विल बी एबल टू टेल मी मोर. मेरी लॉ करे हुए मुझे 17-18 साल हो गए. सो दैट punishment has to become more stringent so that लोग डरें गलत काम करने से. And our judicial system needs to be sped up. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि किसी की child marriage की complaint हुई है, बेचारी की complaint सुनते सुनते उसकी खुद की उम्र ही 27 साल की हो गई है, उम्र ही निकल गई. अब क्या आप child marriage, क्या adult marriage आप क्या discuss करोगे? So redressal of cases has to become faster, and that is across all verticals of Indian law today.
Simran, I would like to strongly support
Yes, sir.
this opinion, because in our country, what's the tragedy and unfortunate that there is a serious gap between the, enactment of law and execution of law, because it all depends upon the, that by whom it is going to be executed. As our speaker strongly told us that who is the magistrate, who is the tahsildar, who is the superintendent of police, and it happened, or it happens not alone with this particular law, or would happen with this particular law. It has been happened for the last so many years. You could say since the commencement of the constitution, that there is a huge gap between the between the enactment of law and execution of law. You can cite a lot of example. Here I'm citing particularly one important article. You see that it's Article 17 of the Constitution. It's Article 15 Clause 2 of the Constitution. It's Article 23 of the Constitution. It's Article 24 of the Constitution. Because these articles, that rights has been conferred, rights has been granted, not against the state, but against the individual also. But that because of the more and more awareness in the country, now people are going to be awakened, and they are going to respect the existing laws, and that it's all depends upon that by whom it is going to be executed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahavir, sir. That was a great insight, adding to what Charu ma'am was saying. Ma'am, this might sound a little repetitive, but I think this question comes from Prabdeep, and it is that raising the age of marriage will not automatically help us change the societal mentality in the society. Uniformity in the age of marriage is needed, but shouldn't it be reduced to 18? Again, because while we have people who are marrying at the average age being 22 and a half, as you stated, there are people who want to marry young as well. And that definitely, with 21 being the legal marriage age, gets criminalized even further. So shouldn't the focus be on improving access to education and healthcare rather than imposing a coercive law that criminalizes individual choice? What if somebody wants to marry young? Because we have seen cases like that too.
Yeah. No, and Prabdeep, I agree with you. In fact, I had said this also. So people who would wait till they turn 18 to get married now have to wait a further 3 years. Girls have to wait for a further 3 years. So I'm well aware of this predicament. And see, working on ground is kind of koi alternative nahi hai. And working on ground is important for every single issue. Sometimes I think instead of focusing on things only from our point of view, like I said, we are a diaspora in the country which has access to great education, which has access to a profession. We have been given a voice. We are using that voice for our rights. But laws are made even for those people जो अपनी खुद की इस राइट को एक्सरसाइज नहीं कर पाते, जो अपने लिए आवाज नहीं उठा पाते, जो गांव की एक लड़की में बोलते 12वीं कर ली अब शादी करा देते हैं, लेकिन अगर ग्रेजुएशन तक एज हो जाएगी तो शायद उसके माँ बाप अब बोलने लगेंगे ग्रेजुएशन करा देते हैं फिर शादी करा देंगे. So that mental shift will happen when a law is also in place. But I also agree that somebody who is in our circle of society, somebody who lives in a metro city, somebody who's got a good education should also have the freedom. While I agree that whether it is medical issues, whether it is other legal issues, इश्यूज अवेयरनेस होनी चाहिए, इसीलिए लॉ स्टूडेंट्स को मैं जरूर बोलती हूँ आपकी आइडियोलॉजी क्या है कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, आई एम नेवर गोइंग टू टेल यू आप मेरे जैसे मोदी जी के सपोर्टर बन जाइए या बीजेपी को सपोर्ट करिए, मैं आपको लेकिन ये बोलती हूँ पॉलिटिकल प्रोसेस का हिस्सा जरूर बनिए. You more than anybody else, I think legal students have a bigger responsibility to become a part of the governance and the opinion making system in our country. You should also go out on the ground, meet some people. अब हम तो दिल्ली में रहते हैं, आप लोग भी दिल्ली में हैं, दूर दूर से आते होंगे पढ़ने के लिए, लेकिन यूजुअली आप कहीं पर भी रहते हैं, अगर 1-1.5-2 घंटे गाड़ी में बैठकर आप थोड़ा दूर जाएंगे, आप किसी गांव तक पहुंच जाएंगे. लेट्स स्टार्ट आवर कैंपेन्स ऑन ग्राउंड ऑन इश्यूज दैट वी आर वेरी पैशनेट अबाउट. सो इफ यू आर अगेंस्ट चाइल्ड मैरिज, लाइक इफ आई थिंक अ गर्ल हैज टू से नो टू द फैमिली, हैज टू गो बैक टू स्कूल. कोविड में आपको पता है 12 मिलियन गर्ल्स, एंड ये राइट टू एजुकेशन का डेटा है, 12 मिलियन गर्ल्स हैव ड्रॉप्ड आउट ऑफ स्कूल. एंड मैं जो स्कूल राइट टू एजुकेशन वाला बोल रही हूँ वो सिर्फ 10वीं तक का था. तो जिस बेचारी बच्ची की 10वीं तक की भी एजुकेशन नहीं होगी, वो आगे क्या तो समझेगी, क्या तो अपने हक के लिए लड़ेगी. सो गो आउट एट द ग्रास रूट लेवल. आप स्लम्स में जाइए, आप आसपास के गांव में जाइए, आप वहां पर यंगस्टर्स से बात करिए, आप बड़े लोगों से बात करिए. डू योर बिट टू कंट्रीब्यूट टू दिस सोशल अवेकनिंग व्हिच इज वेरी मच रिक्वायर्ड इन आवर कंट्री. मैं एक एक्टिविस्ट की तरह बोल रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं हूँ एक एक्टिविस्ट, एंड लाइक आई सेड आई विल नेवर पुश यू in the direction of one ideology, though I believe BJP is the best there is, but I will not do that. But I will tell you to please work on ground. See, here I have been very, very neutral in my entire lecture. In my opinions, I have been very neutral. I have given you the pros and cons for everything. I also think sitting at home and criticizing a decision that the government has taken according to an expert panel is very easy. बहुत सारे लोगों का तो सिस्टम ये होता है कि कुछ भी करेगी सरकार, हमको उसके खिलाफ बोलना है. अगर आज आप नेताजी की आज मूर्ति लगा रहे हैं तो उसमें भी लोग क्रिटिसाइज करना शुरू कर देते हैं. दैट्स अ फैक्ट. सो आई डोंट बिलीव इन दैट. आई थिंक कंस्ट्रक्टिव काम जमीन पर करने का हमारा हक है. जब हम वो कर आते हैं तो हमें क्रिटिसाइज करने का हक मिल जाता है. सो लेट्स डू आवर बिट टू चेंज सोसाइटी इंस्टेड ऑफ जस्ट पुटिंग द ओनर्स एंटायरली ऑन द गवर्नमेंट.
Thanks a lot, ma'am, for guiding with that particular answer. It's absolutely great. One more question which has been followed up by Madhupreeta Nayak is, why not reduce the marriageable age of boys to 18 years instead? Like, we have right to equality right in Article 14 of our Indian Constitution, which purports the equality factor. So if a girl is having an age factor of 21 years, then why not boys to get it reduced to 18? And how would it be better or worse than the current amendment?
So, I told you we arrived at 21 because of a panel of experts who did their studies and then decided that the average age of marriage in our country is actually more than 22 years also. Also, for you to be a graduate, which is now what India is aiming for as basic level of education in the times to come, that age is also approximately 20-21, right? So, whether you are skilling, whether you're doing formal education, agar aap proper graduation ka 3 saal karte hain, it comes down to 21 years, and that is the reason. So that see, I'll tell you one more thing. हम right to education की बात करते हैं, but right to education is also a toothless tiger. If a parent decides कि आज 7th standard में मुझे अपने बच्चे को स्कूल नहीं भेजना है, there is no punishment the government can levy against that parent, right? कोई punishment नहीं है. हाँ, हम कहते हैं कि right to education है, compulsory and free education है, लेकिन do we have a mechanism to send every single child to school? No, we don't, because if we did, then child labor के issues नहीं होते, बाकी चीजों के issues नहीं होते. So for now we have to understand that एक median set करा गया है. This median has not been set arbitrarily. There is a lot of study that has gone behind it, and this is the median for now. भाई जब तक 18 था तब तक आके कोई डिबेट करके 16 तो नहीं बोल रहा था ना. So जब अब 21 हो गया है, let's move beyond the mindset of only finding a fault. अभी किसी ने question box में 23 years भी लिख दिया है. So that's exactly what I'm saying. Criticism solely for the criticism, so sake of criticism, is something that we have to do away with. Also, we have to understand that there is a lot of study which has gone behind this. We also have to ensure that workforce में the number of women are more involved involved because अगर graduate भी हो रही है हमारी लड़कियां, वो workforce कितना join कर पा रही है और वो नहीं join कर रही, उसके पीछे का thought process क्या है. Maybe those few more years of independence, जिसे पढ़ाई करने के लिए तो husband भी allow कर देता है ना. मैं आपको एक typical family की बात बता रही हूँ, and this is a very normal thing in our country. शादी हो जाती है एक लड़की की 18 साल पे, 19 साल पे, उसकी जो नई परिवार है बहुत मैग्नानिमस सा बन के बोलती है, अरे हमने ना अपनी बहू को एग्जाम्स देने दिए, पढ़ाई खत्म करने दी. एंड व्हाट आफ्टर दैट? डिड यू अलाउ हर टू परस्यू हर ड्रीम्स ऑफ हैविंग अ करियर? वाज शी इवन आस्क्ड डज शी वांट टू बी अ फुल टाइम होममेकर और शी वांट्स टू गो एंड वर्क समवेयर? सो दिस काइंड ऑफ फ्रीडम, जब ये पढ़ाई भी बहुत सारी पढ़ाई शादी के बाद होती है, उन लड़कियों को नहीं मिल पाती. तो जो पढ़ के शादी करेंगी, दे विल ऑलरेडी हैव अ वॉइस, दे विल ऑलरेडी बी ऑन देयर फीट.
Absolutely, ma'am. Completely affirmative to your point. Because after all, we need to move ahead to a progressive state rather than being to a regressive one. So the other question, which is that by increasing the minimum age for marriage, we are also increasing the age of consent. And the purpose is, this is to have a well thought and informed consent of the girl so that they can have access to the better education, like you already said right now, and also the other liberated choices as well. So if it is the whole point behind increasing this age, then why are we excluding the consent point in section 375 IPC just for the sake of saving marriage as an institution? This has been led by Abhay Shekhar. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sorry, मैं ना साइड के क्वेश्चंस पढ़ने लग गई थी.
No worries.
Just मुझे एक brief में in one line tell me what is the question.
So basically, ma'am, the point is that if a girl is having a better education and all the facilities behind that, and further, the purpose behind this amendment is that the age of consent, the informed consent of the girl is also...
Yeah, absolutely. So that you know, I told you is a grey mark in this law. And I myself am aware of that grey mark in this law. और ये मैंने सबसे पहले ही बोला था, because the government will have to give a clarification on that. I think that's going to come around when more cases are filed. Usually इस type के clarifications court से मिलते हैं हमको. So very soon we'll have more clarity on that issue of consent, and I hope that comes around very soon. तब तक here we are debating it.
Ma'am, there is Jayanti Sidana who has put down her views in the comment section, and I think I'd like to say, according to me, decreasing age of boys to 18 will not be a progressive step.
I love that. Thank you, Jayanti, for saying that. And thank you so much for saying that, because from the very beginning I have been saying that to be ready for marriage you have to be financially ready also. सिर्फ emotionally ready की बात नहीं होती है. Emotionally ready कोई 16 साल की उम्र में हो जाता है. You know, you hear of so many people who are dating each other since they are very, very young and they get married when they are 25. So please get to a point in life when you can support not just yourself but support your family. And this goes for boys and girls both. Get to a point where if left to your own devices, आप अपना घर चला सकते हैं, आप अपनी groceries खुद खरीद सकते हैं, आप अपने financial burdens खुद संभाल सकते हैं. So this is very, very important. And if you want to be a progressive young citizen of India, please understand you can get married at 18. Maybe अब तक आप कर सकते थे. Maybe you can get married at 21 also. But even at the age of 21, हम में से कितने लोग शादी करते हैं, right? Only those who are financially dependent on other people will actually get married at 21, unless you're like a tech genius and you've made your money very early in life. Usually आप post graduation करना चाहते हैं, usually आप एक नौकरी ढूंढना चाहते हैं, उस नौकरी में एक आध साल आपकी जब steady income हो जाती है, तब आप बोलते हैं now I feel ready to get married. And that's a very reasonable and that's a very sensible thing to do. And I am so glad, Jayati, you brought this up. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, we have one question by Nila Branjan, and that is, I'm so sorry. As the debate of marital rape has once again come to forefront, how do you think this change in age of marriage, addresses this issue?
So I was very badly trolled just last week for an opinion I had on marital rape. और आजकल मुझे दो चीजों के लिए थोड़ा सा घबराहट होता है. सबसे पहले तो दिस outrage which happens the minute you talk of women's rights. I don't know why this outrage happens, and a lot of people outraging are women also. So they are against a law for marital rape because they say it can be misused. Lekin I want to ask you this: all the men today who are fearing misuse of a law, what sort of a marriage are you in? If you're afraid your wife is going to go and file a complaint against you of rape, तो मतलब आपका relationship is wrong from the word go only, na? This is such a huge debate, and maybe someday we should get into it. But I think something is intrinsically wrong in a marriage. जहाँ पर marital rape का issue आते ही people fly off the handle and they say नहीं ऐसा कोई law आना ही नहीं चाहिए. See, right now, even if there is marital rape, women will club it under domestic violence. It's not like it does not exist. It's not like there is no acknowledgement of it. But in a society where sex is not discussed, forget sex, in a society where periods are not discussed, the taboo of certain topics is so much कि वो लड़की सफर भी कर रही होगी ना तो भी वो बोलेगी नहीं. जो बोलेगी 100 बार सफर करेगी तो शायद एक बार वो आवाज उठाएगी. I am again very clearly saying that I am giving my point of view. There could be women who misuse law, but you know, people misuse self-defense law. मर्डर करके आते होंगे, बोलते हैं सेल्फ डिफेंस है. पीपल मिसयूज एवरी सिंगल लॉ. सो जो मिसयूज करने वाले हैं उनके लिए हमें पनिशमेंट स्ट्रिंजेंट करनी चाहिए. लेकिन जो इनोसेंट लोग लैक ऑफ लीगल अवेयरनेस, लैक ऑफ लॉ की वजह से सफर कर रहे हैं, वी शुड क्रिएट अ सेफ प्लेटफॉर्म फॉर देम टू स्पीक आउट. बिकॉज while it is true that men are afraid of being taken to the cleaners with alimony, men are afraid of 498A being misused against them. Men are also afraid if a law comes around for marital rape of that being misused against them. The reality is that a lot of atrocities happen on women every single day. And very few of these women speak up about it. And we should actually work on a mechanism to make sure punishment झूठ बोलने वालों की ज्यादा हो, rather than making the ones who are suffering sit quietly at home. So and also I'm repeating myself here, आपकी शादी में ना कुछ बहुत बड़ा गड़बड़ है अगर आपको पूरे टाइम यही डर लगा रहता है कि आपकी बीवी आपके खिलाफ कोई झूठा केस कर देगी. Work on your marriage, go to a counselor then.
Ma'am, that is actually very...
And my joy, I am on the topic. I was asked this question. That's why I replied, all in good spirit, my friend.
My apologies, Charuji. Actually, you know, these are all law students.
No, that's fine. I've been very, very careful to give both sides of the story to everyone.
I know you've given an absolutely balanced and a nuanced.
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better speaker. You know, I'm very proud also of my students. You know, they are so brilliant and they are very well informed students and they ask very pointed questions. But sometimes what happens, the students, you know, they are all law students and sometimes they get carried away. My boy, please refrain from these kind of personal comments. We have very respected guests with us whom we have requested to spare time for us. And I would like you to listen to whatever she is saying with a very open mind. You know, we are not imposing our thoughts on you. It's just to initiate a discussion so that we know both sides of an issue that is such a burning, such a pertinent issue nowadays. So that is it. And Simran, please just take 2 more questions because Charuji has already given us a lot of time. So just 2 more questions, please.
Sure, ma'am, sure. Ma'am, one more question we have by Priyanshi Srivastav. It's that National Family Health Survey has recorded a decline in the marriage of women below 18 years owing to better access to educational opportunities. These statistics raise questions on the necessity of the amendment. And further, if we have a correlation between the bill and an effort to increase the gross enrollment ratio nowadays, so which was the already rising, particularly behind the period before the bill came into force, so how that will impact the society at large?
So, you know, I'll tell you what I think, okay? Now, let's divide our society into two parts. One society is the educated society aspiring for great jobs and a better livelihood. People like us जो बोलते हैं कि नहीं 21 छोड़ो हम तो 25 की उम्र में शादी करेंगे, 25 छोड़ो हम शायद 27, 28 और maybe 30 years पे हम जाके शादी करेंगे. So there is this aspiring lot in our society which wants to push marriage age even further down. And at the same time, there is another part of society जिसको ये लगता है कि अब हमें पढ़ाई भी नहीं करनी, we have nothing to do, maybe you're living in rural India or you've got family businesses. ये mindset होता है and it's nothing to do with the kind of money you have, because बहुत सारे societies में especially जो business minded families भी होती हैं, don't take my words the wrong way, but ऐसा लगता है कि नहीं हमारे घर में तो बच्चा हमारा settled है ना, family business join करना है तो 20-21 साल में हम लड़के की भी शादी कर देंगे. So there are two absolutely different mindsets which exist. I think for us, we need to draw a bridge between this. We have to also understand that for somebody who's got access to family wealth, independence at the age of 21 is not a dream, it is a reality. And for somebody who's starting out new in the world, maybe at the age of 30 also उनको independence इतनी नहीं लगती कि वो financially किसी और का burden उठा पाए. So that's an ongoing discussion. Of course, now with the way we are pushing for girls to go ahead, हमारी बहुत सारी सरकारी policies हैं, loans to start businesses for women. We are ensuring that colleges are giving a better platform to women. Girls are more aware of their rights. So as education for girls increase, now there's a lot of pressure on corporates also कि वो equatorial hiring करें. अगर वो 10 लोगों को jobs दे रहे हैं, and if they will hire 9 men and 1 woman, there's going to be a lot of outcry about it. So even the corporate world is changing its mindset and more girls are being absorbed into the workforce. हो सकता है शुरू में tokenism हो. बहुत लोग बोलते हैं कि women empowerment ना असलियत कम होती है, tokenism ज्यादा होता है. लेकिन अगर वो tokenism भी है तो वहां से शुरुआत तो हो रही है. कम से कम वहां पर एक लड़की की जगह तो बन रही है. Maybe आगे आने वाले टाइम में, maybe our generation is always going to be the struggling generation, but our daughters will never have to face that struggle. For them, it will always be an equal world and they will not understand the struggles that we had to face growing up, because our struggles are real. So access to education, access to better jobs, also an understanding in a previous generation is what is going to make lives easier for women, not simply changing the marriageable age.
Thank you, ma'am. And we have one last question. I think you had mentioned this also, and a very relevant one, which I think. This is by Harshit Chauhan, and he says that will Prohibition of Child Marriage Amendment Bill 2021 be a first step towards UCC? If I may add one thing to the question, I remember once we were discussing in class and we were talking about all the issues faced by women. Do you think UCC can actually be a one-stop solution of the issues faced by women? Maybe that is child marriage or, violence or consent that is so not very well understood by a lot of people. So do you think actually UCC is a solution, one-stop solution, or is it just one step towards bringing a change?
No, and Anukriti, the last line you said is very important. It is one step towards bringing about a lasting change, because Uniform Civil Code also is going to be an enactment. It is going to be a piece of paper. जब तक हम उसको जमीन पे applicable नहीं करवा पाएंगे, it is going to be an enactment. But enactment also helps, क्योंकि क्या होता है कि बहुत सारे लोग, maybe सारे लोग नहीं, लेकिन बहुत सारे लोग law को mind में रखते हुए certain things को follow करेंगे. See, I'll also tell you, child marriages, even in the Muslim community, is only there in a specific economic strata. बहुत कम लोग जो अपने बच्चों को पढ़ाते लिखाते हैं, अपनी बच्चियों को opportunity देते हैं, वो child marriage नहीं करते. So it's also about having some worldly wise information about what is better for your child. Sometimes it's also about the fact that आप खुद कितने पढ़े लिखे हो तो आप अपने बच्चों को उतना ही freedom दे पाओगे. Also, यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड विल बी लाइक एनी अदर लॉ. जब तक हम उसको एप्लीकेबल करने के लिए जमीन पर स्ट्रिंजेंट मेजर्स नहीं ला पाएंगे, वो बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं रहेगा. एंड हियर आई वांट टू स्ट्रेस अपॉन वन मोर थिंग, आवर एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सर्विसेज, are very important. The way administration is done on ground, एक district के अंदर collector कैसे काम कर रहा है, एक SP कैसे काम कर रहा है, that is extremely important because these are the people जो actually उस law को जमीन पर हकीकत बनाते हैं. तो our administrators have to be very socially conscious, they have to be very involved with the lives, and more and more people should try and attempt the civil services. क्योंकि अभी पता है क्या है, बहुत सारे लोग देना भी चाहते हैं लेकिन disheartened भी हो जाते हैं क्योंकि उनको लगता है ये क्या जिंदगी है, या the purpose to become a civil servant sometimes is not very noble, but understand everything that is done in the parliament is only as powerful as the person who's making it a reality at the grassroots level.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. So thank you everyone for bombarding with the quintessential opinions by our eminent panelists. Ma'am, we're highly obliged to have you on board today with our PIC and Dr. Vakeshwari, ma'am. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for being here today. And I guess the students will be having a very thoughtful process today while sleeping at night. So thanks a lot, ma'am. With this, I would like to continue with Anukriti.
Actually, this we mark an end to a great discussion, a very insightful discussion. And I think there is a lot that still can be discussed and talked about, but due to paucity of time, we'll have to bring this event to an end. This was the first event that the Debate and Discussion Society had conducted for the year 2022. So I hope to see many of the attendees here in the next many more events that we conduct. And thank you, Charu ma'am. All the opinions that you shared, the insight that you gave was really, really amazing and made us think a lot on further we can.
Thank you, Charu. I'm totally delighted and proud. Feel proud. And like to invite you again and again.
And I'm just going to wrap up by saying one thing. You're all lawyers. To be lawyers, you are the future of this country. It's very important for you, especially at this stage, to keep your mind open. दो opinion है ना, तो दोनों को welcome करिए. In fact, दो के अगर आप तीन opinion बना सकते हैं, तो आप दो के तीन opinion बताएं. That's the difference between a good lawyer and an average one. The more open you are with your thought processes, the more accepting you are of other people's thought processes, the better you will be tomorrow when doing your own drafting or argue in court. So my best wishes to everyone. महावीर सर आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और डिबेट एंड डिस्कशन सोसाइटी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Very good. Again, I'm totally influenced from your last remarks because you know that argument always gives birth to the third idea. In case if there is a conflict between the two ideas, then that gives birth to the third idea. So it's very good and sincere advice or guidance to our students, and I'm really thankful to you and would like to invite you at our center again and again because it was a very fruitful discussion. Thanks goes to our teachers, thanks goes to our students, thanks goes to our organizers, especially Professor Vakeshwari ji. Thank you all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charuji, and thanks a lot to our respected PIC for always being open to all kinds of academic activities in the center. Thank you so much.
Thank you.